PI Perspectives. On this episode, we continue from the Osmosis Conference in Orlando, Florida. Matt sits down with Mike LaCorte, the CEO of Conflict International, a multinational investigation firm. Mike is also the chairman of the World Association of Detectives. Mike joins Matt to discuss what it's like to do business as an investigator in Europe and the challenges of the new GDPR policies. Mike also discusses how to conduct an international investigation that spreads through multiple countries. Glad you're with us, and we hope you enjoy our last installment from Orlando. Now here's your host, private investigator Matt Spare.
And welcome to another episode of PI Perspectives. I'm here in Orlando at the Osmosis 2019 conference. I am privileged here to have Mike LaCorte. Mike runs Conflict International. He's also the chairman of the board of the World Association of Detectives. So thanks for sitting down with me today, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hi. How you doing, Matt?
Good. So we're going to talk today a little bit about the World Association of Detectives and also Conflict International. I know you through the World Association of Detectives. We met a couple of years ago. So we're going to jump in on that real quickly. Sure. So tell me a little bit about what WAD is and what the benefits are for being a member to it.
Sure, no problem. Well, the World Association of Detectives, the WAD, is a global association of investigators. It was formed in 1925 by ex-US Secret Service, and it was predominantly a US-based association.
Right.
Over the last 50 or 60 years, it's grown internationally exponentially, and now there are about 1,000 members operating in over 80 jurisdictions around the globe. So it really is a network of skilled, vetted investigators in jurisdictions all over the world. So whenever you need local support in another jurisdiction where maybe you don't know how things work there legally, or you don't know the investigation process, there's boots on the ground there that can help you and be an extension to your team.
That's really helpful. Like making sure you're not breaking any laws while you're trying to do what you need to do is important. I got to say, one of the things about the WAD that impresses me the most is the translation ability on the message board. When somebody sends out an email in a different language, how it converts to English. You read it and you're like, okay, I know it's a translation, but wow, I really understand what this person is looking for. Yeah. So I always was like, wow, that's really interesting that they're able to do that. It's really cool. So I've actually personally been a member of WAD for about 3 or 4 years now. I've used it from time to time. I've had situations where, I'm based out of New York, and maybe one of my attorney clients has their clients go on vacation somewhere and something happens, and I need to get that boots on the ground. So I had a situation where it was in Italy, and I said, my client just had a car accident in Italy. Do you have anyone who speaks Italian? I was like, well, what if I could get you somebody that's locally in Rome? They're like, you could do that? I was like, yeah, I could do that. Within 2 or 3 hours, I had them like 4 names to call. And I had spoken to all the investigators to make sure they were able to actually do it. And then we were able to get them the information. And also recently I had a case where I needed someone in Ecuador, and WAD just hit it out of the park for me because the investigator I hired, he knew how to get things notarized, right? I could have gone to Ecuador myself and done that work, but I would have had my New York stamp, and that means nothing, right? Yeah. It needed to be recognized internationally, the papers that were being signed, and that's one of the benefits. Somebody who knows the local laws and how to do things the proper way, like you're paying for that service to get it done. It was a very good experience, and I love the activity of the board. I haven't actually been to a board meeting yet. I really want to. The last one was in Sweden, correct?
Yeah, Stockholm, Sweden.
Yeah, fantastic. I saw the pictures. I know we had a big contingency from the Society of Professional Investigators that went. I saw their photos. I'm just like, darn it, man, I wish I was able to get out there. But I think the next one coming up is somewhere warm, right?
Yeah, we've got the midterm in March in Panama, and then in September we're in Aruba for the annual. And the annual get pretty good numbers. We've got about 200 investigators turn up, so get some good numbers there. And what's great about it, Matthew, is you've got all these different cultures, all these different people from around the world, and they all come together in one community. It's pretty unique. It's the most unique association that I've come across in the world.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, man. Like I found out about it through PI Magazine. You guys had run an article, and I'm just like, why am I not a member of this? Right? It's a great network, and what a fantastic marketing tool, right? So I go to my clients, and I'm like, hey, man, not only can I cover all of New York through Aldenese or whatever, I can cover the world for you, right? I'm part of networks. Like, you need an investigator in Stockholm, done. You need somebody in Japan, no problem. Just having the ability to do that just makes you look better. Makes you look bigger than you actually are sometimes.
Yeah, completely.
Which is good. I'm going to make it a point to come out to, who can argue, right? I'm sorry, honey, I have to go to Aruba. Sorry.
I'm going to hold you to that.
I'll be there. I may actually bring my family with me, though. It's going to be a very expensive trip. Okay, so let's move on to, more importantly, Conflict International. So tell me a little bit about that business and what it does.
Yeah, so Conflict International is a full-service intelligence investigation agency. It started by merger in 2008. So two companies merged, created Conflict International, and it's grown ever since from there. I'm current CEO of that company, and yeah, it's busy.
Okay, so how many people work for you?
So we have 20 in the UK, and we have 4 in New York.
Okay.
And, I think with any business, it's only as strong as the people in it.
Yeah.
And you've got to find the right people. And
so true.
Over the years, you I don't want to say this bad, but you do, you learn by your mistakes. And
sure. Yeah. And listen, just because somebody held a certain position for 20 something years doesn't mean they were good at it, And I think listen, we're here at Osmosis. We're here all about technology. We're learning to do new things and, the latest gadgets and all that other stuff. But a gumshoe is a gumshoe. If you don't know how to talk to somebody and ask questions, or you don't know how to read a situation, if you're doing EP work and some stuff starts going down, if you don't know how to read the room, you're not good at it, no matter how much experience you have. So it's I can agree with that. You really, just because you're in the space doesn't mean you're good at it. You got to really figure out how to do it. And when you find folks that are good at doing it, you give them whatever they want for salary and you hold on to them as long as you can.
You're right. You also see the growth. And when you get the right people in the right positions, then you think, wow, this is the way the company should be running, because you've got the right key people with the right mentality and discipline, and they can really change levels of your company.
Something tells me that you have to have a passport to work for Conflict International.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
that's one of the job requirements.
Definitely, yeah. There's a lot of traveling involved.
A lot of traveling, okay. How many countries do you cover?
How many countries do we cover? We've got, through the associations like the WAD, we've got excellent global reach. And over the years I think there's 6 of us, I think, that are members of the WAD, or maybe 5. Over the years, you develop SLAs, service level agreements with strategic partners around the world, guys that you've worked with, you trust, their work, their deliverable, their product, and you develop these relationships and you end up creating footprints in those countries. Right. So I would say, we're pretty comfortable in a lot of the countries around the world. There's a few we won't touch for just obvious reasons, but, I think that's probably goes for the whole investigation community, but, I'm pretty comfortable. And the other thing is understanding, and we touched on it before, is what you can and can't do, the processes, the culture, the ethics, the laws, and what deliverable are. When in my office in London, it's a great talking point. Whenever there's an American job that hits the table, we're all happy.
Be nice.
We're all happy. No, I'm saying we're all happy because you guys have access to a lot of information, a lot of data. It's great, we're going to look fantastic in front of our clients because we can pull everything out. And then, certain jurisdictions, because of the privacy laws.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. The GDPR, how is that affecting your business model?
Yeah, GDPR has come into effect May 2018, and it has hit the investigation community. But now with the UK and Brexit, because, the UK looking at leaving the European Union, then what we've done internally, we've taken some advice on this, is we've set up and incorporated in Cyprus, which is currently in the EU. So we can then share data within the EU,
right,
and instruct out of the Cyprus office for data sharing there. So it's another option. It gives our clients another option. It gives us another option when we're working on international projects.
Right.
So we've had to put, at our own expense, another layer in place,
It's just money.
Yeah, another bit of advice from someone else in the industry. That's
another reason to travel, one more office to go visit. It's all good. Dude, I wanted to see what your frequent flyer miles look like.
I've got a few. I can give you some if you like.
I'm going to hold you to it.
But you can't use them for Aruba.
Okay. Panama, man. Panama.
Okay.
This would be a good time to let you know this episode is brought to you by Satellite Investigations in New York City. Satellite Investigations is New York's leading investigation firm since 2005. Check out the newsletter archives for previous articles and publications. Matt is also available to be booked as a speaker for your association or conference events. You can visit their site at satellitepi.com, SATELLITEPI.com for more details.
So tell me a little bit about the types of clients that you work for.
3 groups, probably like with all the investigation community, but we've got the corporate world, the law world on behalf of their clients, and the high net worth individuals. If you're looking for percentage splits, I'd say 55% lawyers and on behalf of their clients, like 25-30% corporate world, and 15% whatever's remaining in the high net worth market.
So if you were doing a job in New York, for example, you obviously have your team that you're putting together. Do you reach out if you need additional people for like subcontractors to bring in?
Completely, all the time. And we have I'm sure many people keep this, but we have like a contractor list with previous work.
With Yelp reviews in there.
Funny you should say that. Not Yelp, but there are reviews on report. Yeah, because you need to keep up to date. When it was last used, was it value for money, response, and that type of thing. And you just write. It's like an online file sharing spreadsheet,
right.
of who, where, what, how. And if we get stuck, we've got all the listservs to reach out to for support. That's how it
yeah, I mean that's what community is about, being
completely.
part of these associations, being able to lean on people that and that's why it's important to come to events like Osmosis and to go to WAD events, because that face-to-face interaction, sitting down and having a meal with somebody and finding out what their background is, who they're about, what they do, is so important, when you're making that decision on how am I going to handle this. So let's talk a little bit about the executive protection, basically how you manage that. How do you set that up? Setting up for success. What do you do on the back end to like manage everything? Tell me what that looks like.
Okay, so we've got, let's say from the UK office, we've got a guy called Dave Thomas who's head of operations, and he runs all the EP work internationally. So he'll make sure the risk assessments are done. We understand the brief, the objective, exactly what we're supposed to be doing. He'll then profile and build the right EP team for whatever the situation is. And he'll keep a close eye on that project and run that. And the way he selects, or we all select the EP agents that build that team, is through obviously the networks that we're in. We make sure that they're accredited, licensed and checked, people that we've worked with, and we put that team together to make sure that it achieves the right task.
Yeah, I think one of the things you were talking about earlier that was important too is managing expectations for the client. Because I think everybody has an idea, especially like when you're doing surveillance. It's like, we're going to catch them the first time, and I only want to send one guy out there. It's like, no, it's not the way to do it. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. Turn off Law and Order and let's talk for real. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I would say you're right. 50% of the project is actually managing the client's expectations. Giving them a deliverable that is satisfactory to achieve their objective. So, like you said earlier, watching all these, online television investigation dramas has skewed what reality really is in our sector, And
I love Sherlock. I can't stop watching it. It's just not real,
Yeah, exactly. They'll come with an outrageous objective of wanting to find out X, but the way you find out X is you need to do 3 or 4 steps first, right. Or this is the reality of what an investigation really looks like. So it's keeping close contact with the client and managing their expectations, especially if they've never hired investigators before, because You've got to think of the frame of mind that someone is in to hire an investigator if it's a private individual.
Yeah, usually there's some sort of crisis going on, I would imagine, right?
We are what we call a distressed purchase. No one comes to us and books us in like you book a holiday in for next year. You've got a situation that's happening live. We are a distressed purchase. We need to react and act and try and provide a solution pretty much straight away. And a client has an idea of what that solution is in their head. Right. This is going on. I want to find X, but hold on a minute. Tell me your scenario, and we are the investigators. We'll put the strategy in place to try and achieve what you want. And that's the process in managing clients' expectations.
Yeah, and that's always a tough sell, especially if they're very opinionated, or you're dealing with that typical high net worth person. They're there for a reason. They're usually probably very stubborn and have their own idea on how to do things, or used to getting things done their particular way. So yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. And being able to manage the expectations when you don't hit the mark there, because especially when it comes to surveilling, you never know how it's going to turn out. I mean, there's no guarantee. And, what happens today may be different tomorrow. What happens, maybe tomorrow you get what you're looking for, but today was a bad day. You got to deal with that. So how do you go about soliciting these types of clients?
I think the industry and the investigation was built on brand, trust, and reputation. And a lot of our business is repeat clients. So we work for, we've got, say, retainers from corporates that we're engaged on monthly work, and lawyers that we've known for many years, and they're our outlet to other clients. But private high net worth individuals, I think it's word of mouth. It's very, very difficult to shout about your successes. Actually, you can't shout about your successes that much in this industry.
Yeah, you got that NDA.
So you may have done a fantastic investigation for a real high net worth or a say publicized type client who's got a good following, who's in the public domain, but you can't tell anyone about it. So
I can't even begin to tell you. There's some guys I've met, and I'm having, we're hanging out, we're talking and all that, and they start telling me things. I'm like, why are you telling me to stop? Like, you're not supposed to talk about these things. I'll change the subject.
Completely, yeah. And if you're not tied up with an NDA, you're tied up for morally and your integrity. You don't want to discuss your clients' projects with others. So
your reputation is everything in this business.
There you go. So you're right. It's a difficult market to advertise yourself or publicly talk about what you've done. However, over the years, if you brand yourself, you create yourself an identity, and you keep banging the same drum of professional, integrity, reliability, and you're trustworthy, the clients will come to you. And if you keep providing good results, your name will get around.
And, I mean, you can't throw out the name, Harris Pilton, and people won't know what you're talking about, right? You just can't do it. You gotta hold that code of ethics. I think is really important, because once you've been burned and people says, this guy can't keep his mouth shut, you're done. That's it. It's finished.
You're right. You're only as good as your last job in this industry.
No, it's true. It's true. I think that's why it's important to come to conferences like this too, to get better at what we do and just get a pulse, a sense of what's changing in the industry. Legislative is always an issue in the United States. I know overseas probably even more, but like in the United States, the National Council of Investigative Security Services is really important, making sure that the lawmakers hear the voice of the investigator or the security guard company, because a lot of times they don't even realize that the bill that they're signing is going to affect our livelihood. I think it's important. And I'm sure it's the same way overseas, dealing with that, making sure there's some sort of lobbyist. Do you guys have that in England where there's like, an investigation organization that tries to talk to politicians to make sure you guys are protected, or not really?
So you may not believe this, but in the UK, the act of private investigation is not licensed, where there's no license for PIs in the UK, which is...
So Sherlock is not licensed?
Sorry to shock you, but we have been lobbying for licensing. There's many investigators would like a license to be introduced in the UK.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. However, the government in the UK keep setting this aside. I think there's more important issues to discuss.
Right.
I'm part of the ABI, which is the Association of British Investigators, and they are very pro-licensing. But, it hasn't materialized yet. Don't hold your breath. I mean, it keeps getting deferred. So hopefully one day we'll be licensed. But it's crazy. And in Europe, there are a couple of other countries. I know Germany, which again is another advanced country in Europe, is not licensed either. So you'd think, these countries would be.
That's like throwing revenue away. Why would they not want revenue? Like a guaranteed yearly revenue? That's not a good business model. No wonder this Brexit thing's going on. Ooh, sorry. I take that back. I'll edit that out later. No, I'm not.
Well, now we're going to tell you about Scope Now, because this episode happens to be brought to you by ScopeNow.com. We automate your social media investigations. Not a Scope Now user? Visit them at ScopeNow.com/try. ScopeNow.com/try. Make sure to visit the website to learn all about the new exciting upgrades of Scope Now 3.0. ScopeNow.com. SKOPENOW.com. Don't forget to mention code PIP19 when you visit the site and sign up for an account to receive a 10% discount. That's PIP19.
So on top of executive protection, what else does Conflict International do?
So we're full service, really. We do the usual tracing. We've got pre-employment screening contracts for corporates. We do background checks, due due diligence work, like a little bit deeper work. We've got our own in-house surveillance team. We do international asset trace work and just providing sort of risk management to clients all over the place.
So you see a good need for that, the whole risk management, going in and analyzing the a weakness, some way for someone to get in.
Potentially. There's it could be physical. There could be the pen testing side of things as well, where it's more technical and see what vulnerabilities there are out there and how to mitigate risks against that.
Do you guys monitor like social media for executives and brands for these big companies?
Yeah, we do some social media monitoring or just web monitoring, so you can set up the usual alerts and whatever else. And if you're under a retainer with a client, it's a opportunity to identify issues before they become bigger than you can contain them quite quickly rather than before they become something that's difficult to manage.
It's always important to know like where the bomb is before it goes off than dealing with the aftermath after it goes off.
Completely.
But it's so hard to sell somebody on that idea. The culture in the United States is so reactive and not proactive.
That's
everywhere,
one
of the biggest challenges that we have. Oh yeah, we'll just deal with it after it happens. It's like, no, man, I'm going to tell you to and it's not even that expensive to put the policies in place to keep these things from happening.
Sometimes without, and I say this without any disrespect at all, but if someone's been burnt once, they're more inclined to put provisions in place.
Sure.
And the monitoring stuff, it's relatively low cost, as you know.
Yeah.
So, to set it all up, it's relatively low cost. And if you can go into a client with an assessment, and if you do a risk assessment first and you identify these vulnerabilities, sometimes you do yourself out of work because you say, look, we've assessed, this is a risk assessment, we'll do it for low cost. Here are all your vulnerabilities where you're exposed. Then they may just take your report away and get their own internal team to do it.
That happens a lot too. So I even had a situation where I had been in touch or contacted by somebody who was in the entertainment industry, right? And they wanted to do backgrounds and do all this stuff. And they had new projects they were working on. And I gave them a quote. So here's, I reached out to somebody like you. I said, hey, I need this done. This is your wheelhouse, your specialty. What would it cost to do this? And we got everything all in place. And the person got back to me and says, looks great. Let me just talk to the studio because I don't want to pay for it. They need to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And it got lost. Mm-hmm. It got lost in the rigmarole of who was going to pay for the stupid service that they both agreed they need, but they couldn't figure out who was actually going to pay for it. And it died, and it's one of the frustrations. It was very obvious they needed it, and it was going to be one of these situations. All right, well, because you didn't do it, now this happened. It's like, really, man, you couldn't get around just figuring out who was going to pay for it. But,
it does happen all the time, especially with the bigger the client, the bigger the corporate.
Sure.
There's too many tick boxes. Unless you're dealing with a decision maker.
To me, I mean, with my model too, being local in New York and just having a good client base, these clients have message boards where they'll talk about work that needs to be done or looking for a good investigator or whatever. And every now and then, thankfully, somebody says, hey, Matt from Satellite knows what he's doing. You should use him. And just having 3 or 4 other people that are members of that board saying, yes, you should call Satellite. They know what they're doing. Satellite-based investigations is great. And then I'll get phone calls. And I'll know, like, somebody said something on message board because I'll get like 7 or 8 calls, within a 2 or 3 day period. I'm like, oh, somebody put something on the message board again. But having that built-in testimonial is great. I think that's what keeps us alive and keeps us going.
Yeah, completely.
So, like, what are some of the other challenges, or give me a good story where you guys were able to figure something out or get something done that you didn't think was possible? But don't break any NDAs, please, if you can.
Okay, so talk about a past case.
Yeah, just not details, but just how maybe somebody on your team did something different that they were able to get a job done.
Okay, end of last year, we took a call in from a regular client, legal client, and I don't know how you'd know how the art world works. So
I don't make that kind of money.
No, okay, well, it's not my art. It was an artist, a well-known artist, and what they do is they lease their artwork to other people, and these other people, whoever they are, companies, exhibit these art pieces in jurisdictions. And if there's a sale, then the artist's team earn money out of that, and the person who's leased the artwork earns a commission. Anyway, it was a 2-year lease deal for these pieces. I think it's 58 pieces of art, and he's a well-known artist, and it was leased by a company, and the art was being shown in places around Europe. The 2-year lease was up.
Okay.
the art never returned. Okay.
Oops.
Yeah. So you've got,
I think I saw this on the episode of Blacklist.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Really?
Yeah.
The media did pick up on it. So we were pulled in to do a few things, find the art,
Right.
and help bring it back.
Right.
So, and this is the power of some of the networks. So the client said, we think it's being exhibited in Berlin. And by the time they went and done their processes of recovery, the art was moved from this warehouse.
Right.
So through our own social work, as in monitoring networks, monitoring chat rooms, and monitoring all sorts of things, we found a lead and a plug that it was being shown somewhere in Belgium. So we sent a team out there. We hooked up with local investigators there. And lo and behold, in a disused warehouse, these art pieces that are worth millions of dollars were all being exhibited there. And not only were they being exhibited, they were charging entrance fees to members of the public to come and see the work that the artist had no idea about. Okay,
that is a great business model. It's making a lot of money.
So they did, yeah. So we ended up setting up a surveillance team to monitor the artwork. So our objective was to protect the artwork, because these guys would randomly set up these pop-up exhibits and then move the art in the middle of the night.
Your team was able to
so we ended up monitoring the sort of 24-hour sort of covert surveillance to try and make sure that this art weren't moving in the middle of the night. And the problem with this situation is you'd have these vans turn up at early hours, and the company, the intermediary company that leased the artwork, were not very nice people. So once we started doing a bit more digging, we ended up identifying who was behind the whole thing, and then the lawyer client started the legal paperwork process. We ended up engaging bailiffs in that country who ended up being part of our team, actually, and ended up taking back 57 out of the 58 art pieces. One was missing, but all in all, at least, the artwork was delivered back. But this was quite a rapid deployment case. Like I said to you earlier, it's a distress purchase. You get the call in at night, and the guys are on the ground in the morning. So it's a quick turnaround. And having a network that all of us investigators have, especially if you're dealing in the international market, a trusted, reliable network that you can call upon in a moment's notice.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's worth its weight in gold.
Completely. And I'm a strong believer that every investigator needs to be part of their local association, their state,
at a bare minimum. Bare minimum.
A national association and an international association. You need these toolkits in order to have that network.
And it only makes you look better too when you're going on those meetings. It's just like, hey, this is what I can get done for you. Makes you look bigger than you are. Tell me a little bit, like, if somebody was looking to get into this line of work, they're maybe just coming out of law enforcement, or apparently if you're just sitting around on the couch in England and you want to be an investigator,
like, don't know how much work you get, but yeah.
How do they get into this? Put down the fish and chips and they say, I want to be a PI. So how do they do it?
So in the UK, I mean, it's changing, actually. It used to be ex-law enforcement and ex-military that would come into the private sector with the skills that they've developed over many years. However, now there's MVQ level 3 in private investigation, which is a course that you can do. It's becoming a lot more openly known, this industry. However, we're still not licensed, which is, I don't know, it's contradictory a little bit. But I would say that try and join a bigger firm. If you're starting out on your own, get the field experience. There's many courses that can help you enhance your skills on database management, which databases to use, how to use them. Conducting OSINT work, open source work, and what steps and what deliverable you should be giving clients. And joining a bigger firm, I would suppose, once you've got enough skill sets and you want to take the plunge and go out on your own, which I'll be honest with you, it's quite scary and difficult, especially when you're maybe employed and you're comfortable. And it's if something's in the too difficult pile, you can give it to someone else to do. Whereas when you're on your own, you've got to do the easy, middle, and difficult stuff all by yourself. So, and join your associations, especially join your local association. Network with people in the industry that have done it and been there. Develop friendships and contact.
So give me the website for WAD.
WAD.net.
WAD.net. Nice.
Very easy.
Yep, go check it out. And how do folks get a hold of you?
As in me personally?
No, get a hold of you for Conflict International.
Oh, international. Yeah. So the website's conflictinternational.com. Probably best email for me, because it's just all over the place. And that's m.lacorte, my name, at conflictinternational.com.
Right. And I know you're on LinkedIn also. So.
I am on LinkedIn, yes.
And he actually responds to his messages.
I try to.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for sitting down with me. Mike was gracious enough to pretty much sacrifice his lunchtime today for me. So I'm a little hungry too. So we're going to tag out here from Osmosis, get back downstairs and reintegrate ourselves to the program. So thank you so much for taking the time to step in and talk with me. Listen, folks, WAD, you got to go check it out. It's been a great resource for me, and I'm highly recommended. And if you're doing work overseas, Conflict International, even if you just had a question on how to do a certain thing, I know Mike is very pro education and just making sure that within our industry we're doing things the right way. So thank you for your time, sir, and we'll talk to you soon.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a good day. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thanks for checking out this episode. Kudos to Mike and his team for recovering all that stolen artwork. You can reach Mike through Conflict International at conflictinternational.com. We'll leave a link in the description. You can also learn more about the World Association of Detectives at WAD.net. Please be sure to rate us 5 stars at Apple Podcast, leave a comment or review, and share this episode with a friend. Tune in next time as Matt gets back to training and discusses the best ways to do accident scene photography. On behalf of Matt Spare, thanks for downloading and subscribing to PI Perspectives.